Before Harley killed it, there was Buell, the one American brand that dared to build motorcycles for real riders. Not just garage ornaments, lighter, smarter, designed for comfort, not pain. This is the story of how Eric Buell, racer, engineer, and a real rebel, created the most advanced American motorcycles ever made, and how corporate greed destroyed them. Before Buell, American motorcycles were heavy, making them dangerous and exhausting for riders. Eric Buell's three-part genius was the first, and possibly the last, American effort to create an easier-to-ride machine as riders aged. Eric Buell was a racer, an engineer, and a man who looked at the status quo and saw a problem that needed solving. He saw the traditional American V-twin as a beautiful engine, but it was shackled to a frame designed by history, not by physics. In the 1980s, as the average rider's age began to climb, Buell designed motorcycles for the future, machines that compensated for human limitations. His entire philosophy was built on three key concepts that drastically improved handling and rider comfort. So what did Buell change? First, mass centralization. Buell moved the fuel from the traditional tank, storing it inside the aluminum frame. He put the oil in the swing arm. He placed the heavy exhaust muffler directly under the engine. This wasn't just clever packaging, it was a revolution. By placing all the heaviest components near the center of the bike, he virtually eliminated top heaviness. This means less lethargy and a significantly easier time managing the bike when pushing it into the garage or navigating a low-speed turn. This was a huge relief for the senior rider. Second, reduced unsprung weight. Look at the front wheel. Buell's perimeter brake rotor was mounted at the edge of the wheel, not the hub. This reduced the weight not supported by the suspension, allowing the suspension to react faster and smoother. The result? Less fatigue on your arms and shoulders, and a ride quality that was infinitely more precise than any comparable American machine. And third, the torquey heart. Buell used the American V-twin, but tuned it for massive, usable torque right off the idle. It gave riders instantaneous power without having to constantly hunt for the top of the rev range. This meant less downshifting and a less demanding experience, perfectly suited for the experienced rider who prefers confident cruising over frantic track riding. These three principles culminated in the XB series, which included the Ulysses XB12X. While the Lightning was the nimble fighter, the Ulysses was the older rider's untapped gem. It was a sport touring bike with an upright, commanding riding position, a comfortable seat, and the power of a 72 cubic inch 1200 cc V-twin. It weighed in around 460 pounds dry. Compare that to the 800-pound touring behemoths of the time. Buell was building the perfect combination of performance and practicality. They were speaking directly to the experienced, discerning rider who wanted American power without the physical grind. By the early 2000s, Buell was selling real volume. They weren't Harley-Davidson, but they had moved beyond the boutique builder phase. The XB series was a hit among enthusiasts. Buell was producing several thousand units per year by their peak, a significant volume for a niche, high-performance brand. Their popularity was not measured by sheer numbers, but by critical acclaim and customer retention. The Ulysses XB12X in particular became a rider's favorite. But this vision, this perfect marriage of rider and machine, could not survive the harsh reality of corporate finance. And the price for a piece of that American dream would be total destruction. Despite the success, Buell was bleeding cash. Why? Because the cost of true innovation is staggering. The unique components, the perimeter brakes, the fuel-in-frame chassis, the specialized swing arms were really expensive to design, test, and produce in low volume. Every time Buell invented a solution, they incurred massive research and development overhead that Harley-Davidson, with its decades-old core platform, never had to face. Buell was trapped. They sold thousands of bikes, but their thin margins and high overhead meant they needed continuous, massive capital infusion just to stay competitive. They needed a billion-dollar backer to survive. They had the right product at the right time, but they made the biggest business mistake imaginable. They failed to finance the revolution. This is the flaw that led them to the very organization whose traditions they were trying to dismantle, Harley-Davidson. And this is where Buell's destruction truly began. Eric Buell had the vision, but his low-volume, high-cost production model required a massive influx of capital just to compete. Building groundbreaking machines with custom parts is expensive. So in 1993, Buell struck a deal, selling a 49% stake to the one company that could guarantee survival, Harley-Davidson. This was framed as a necessary evil. Buell got access to the necessary funds, a massive dealer network, and a supposed shield against financial failure. But this partnership quickly morphed into a dual-edged sword, and the bigger blade was always pointed at Buell's heart. Harley-Davidson, a corporation built on decades of tradition and a successful cruiser blueprint, did not understand, nor did it want to understand, the future that Buell was building. Their board members saw Buell as a side project, a way to satisfy the few younger riders who wanted a sporty machine, without ever challenging the core business of cruisers. This corporate environment led to the first and most catastrophic compromise. Buell was forced to exclusively use Harley-Davidson's existing Sportster-based V-twin engines. Think about the sheer mind-numbing irony of this. You have an engineer building the lightest, most centered, most modern chassis in America, and he is shackled to an engine design that was conceived in the 1950s. The Sportster engine was heavy, air-cooled, and notorious for heat output, a nightmare for the sensitive electronic systems in Buell's design. It required complicated rubber mounting systems to dampen its brutal vibrations, adding weight and complexity that Buell's engineering philosophy was dedicated to eliminating. The engine literally fought the frame. The irony is that Buell's engineers repeatedly designed better, lighter, water-cooled engines, N9s that could have truly competed with Japanese and European rivals. But every time, the design was flatly rejected by Harley-Davidson management, who feared cannibalizing their own, more profitable engine sales. This internal conflict wasn't just an engineering skirmish, it was a financial and engineering tragedy. Buell bikes gained a reputation, often undeserved, for poor reliability, not because of Eric Buell's brilliant chassis work, but because of the antiquated two-cylinder anchor that Harley-Davidson forced him to use. The purest example of this financial and engineering tragedy was the Buell Blast. This machine was not designed for performance. It was designed as a training bike for the Harley-Davidson Rider's Edge program, intended to funnel new, young riders into their ecosystem. It was a complete departure from Eric Buell's vision. The Blast was powered by a 500 cubic centimeter, single-cylinder engine, essentially half of the Sportster engine. It produced a modest 34 horsepower and weighed around 360 pounds dry. At the time of its introduction in the year 2000, it cost roughly $4,400. It was cheap, it was basic, and therefore it was a compromise. It was plagued by quality control issues, most infamously the self-destructive timing belt pulley that often failed catastrophically. Crucially, this bike was used to dilute the Buell brand, associating the innovative name with a cheap entry-level machine that suffered from Harley-Davidson's neglect of the entry-level market. It demonstrated perfectly that their ultimate goal was not to foster Buell's genius, but to use it as a tool for their own corporate gain, irrespective of the damage it caused to Buell's reputation for high performance and engineering integrity. The market never received the true unfettered Buell. The company was trapped in a financial and engineering paradox that sealed its fate long before the fatal day of the final closure. They had the money to survive, but only at the cost of the genius that made them worth saving. The stage was set for the glorious and the ultimate corporate betrayal. But you won't betray us, right? Show us by subscribing and liking this video. Despite the internal conflicts and the compromises of using outdated engines, Buell managed to reach its peak. By the mid to late 2000s, Buell was producing its best machines. The Firebolt and the Lightning became legends of American street riding, renowned for their incredible handling. But the true star for our demographic was the Ulysses X B12X. The Ulysses was not just a great adventure tourer, it was arguably the older rider's dream bike. Its upright ergonomics eliminated the back pain associated with sport bikes, and its accessible torque made it easy to navigate long-distance trips. It offered a smooth ride on uneven terrain while maintaining a relatively light weight of around 460 pounds. Brand new, the Ulysses came with an MSRP starting around $12,000 in its final years, a competitive price for its performance category. But today, the financial picture is starkly different. A second-hand Ulysses now typically sells for just $4,000 to $6,000, a price drop that makes the initial purchase seem like a financial tragedy for the original owner. It was the rare bike that provided excitement without demanding exhaustion. Buell had finally found its comfort zone and its most loyal customer base. Then came the year 2009.
Harley-Davidson is forced to take drastic action after its profits plunged 84% in the third quarter.
That is prompting the company to eliminate its line of Buell motorcycles and sell its Italian division. Harley says it has to concentrate on its main brand.
While the global financial crisis was raging, the news that Harley-Davidson was shutting down the Buell brand sent a shockwave through the motorcycle world. But this was not just a cutback, this was a strategic execution. At the time, Harley-Davidson was attempting to launch its own water-cooled, high-performance bikes through its acquisition of MV Agusta, a move that was quickly proving to be a financial disaster. The internal consensus was that Buell was too much of a distraction and, more critically, a competitor to their own future non-cruiser projects. By eliminating Buell, Harley-Davidson killed its biggest rival for internal resources and funding. They essentially executed the viable, American-made future of sport riding to cover up their own blunders with foreign acquisitions. It was a corporate decision based on fear and ego, not on Buell's lack of potential. The emotional fallout was immense. American riders felt betrayed. They saw a genuine American innovator, a brand that put riders first, sacrificed at the altar of corporate tradition. The shutdown of Buell was the crushing of a dream, leaving behind not just a gap in the market, but a deep emotional wound for those who championed the underdog. The machines were still on the roads, still brilliant, still beloved, but now they were orphans. And for every potential owner today, that orphan status creates the most terrifying and expensive risks imaginable. We've charted the rise of an American innovator and its heartbreaking fall due to corporate betrayal. The market now offers the Ulysses, once $12,000, for as little as $4,000. That low price is the biggest lie in the used motorcycle market. We promise to reveal the 4 major nightmares that turn a used Buell into a financial death spiral for the unsuspecting older rider. In the world of specialized engineering, an orphan is an expensive child. Your target machine, the Ulysses, is not just cheap to buy, it is cheap to buy because it is impossible to maintain. This is the core risk you must understand before you consider this bargain. There are 4 major problems facing Buell owners today. Problem 1, obsolete parts. Buell's reliance on custom parts like the swing arm, perimeter brake, and fuel and frame chassis meant their supply chain vanished when the factory closed. Damaged frames or failed sensors often require unreliable aftermarket parts or salvage components, which is unacceptable for riders who prioritize instant reliability. Problem 2, specialized mechanics no longer exist. Buell motorcycles, with their unique electronic mapping and rubber-mounted Harley engines, require specialized technicians. Most Harley-Davidson dealerships now refuse service. Finding a mechanic for V-twin tuning or idle issues is nearly impossible, often forcing owners to become their own mechanics. Problem 3, the impossible cost of engine problems. The Sportster V-twin engine's tendency to overheat causes frequent head gasket failures, oil leaks, and thermal issues. Repairs are costly due to rare parts and specialized labor. A common fix can exceed $5,000. Problem 4, the financial death spiral. The Buell's known maintenance risks cause its resale value to plummet to zero if it becomes non-running. A $5,000 purchase with $3,000 in repairs could result in a mere $1,000 in parts if another issue arises. Despite the Ulysses being a good bike, corporate betrayal has made it a financial risk. The reality is that the low purchase price is a lie. The true cost of ownership is hidden in the garage, waiting for the inevitable maintenance nightmare. You are buying a machine that may be 7 or 8 years old and is already 20 years obsolete in its support structure. The legacy of Eric Buell is not in the sales numbers. It's in the motorcycles riding today. The concepts he championed, mass centralization, underslung exhausts, and perimeter brakes, were all scoffed at by the corporate giants, but now they are industry standard. Buell proved that American motorcycles could be nimble, safe, and comfortable without sacrificing character. Every modern, well-handling motorcycle owes a debt to that rebellious visionary engineer. Eric Buell himself refused to quit. Immediately following the closure, he started EBR, Eric Buell Racing. This was his attempt to finally build the motorcycle he always wanted to build, free of Harley-Davidson's control, but the fight continued. EBR faced its own financial troubles and further restructuring, proving just how difficult it is for a genuinely innovative small company to survive in a market dominated by behemoths. The story continues to be one of struggle and resilience. Can they finally achieve a sustained comeback? The market is watching closely. It is a profound shame that his vision was crushed. How beautiful and how innovative the American motorcycle world would have been if his engineering vision had been properly funded and protected, rather than exploited and executed. It would have been a world where the older rider had more choices built specifically for their specific needs. Did you own a Buell, a Lightning, a Firebolt, or the beloved Ulysses? Did you experience the maintenance nightmare or the joy of its handling? Share your story in the comments below. Click on the next video and don't forget to subscribe and like this video.